Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Once in a while, a story comes along where you're like, really? Okay? Headline says it all. Kevin sent it to me. Thank you very much. From people.com, Emily Palmer writes, Ohio father hit by car, driven by 9-year-old son, was allegedly drunk when giving driving lessons, according to the police. So a 36-year-old man and his 9-year-old son were involved in this, along with, I'm guessing, the family car. The Ohio man was injured after allegedly, drunkenly, taking his young son for a driving lesson. Now, many people I've spoken to said, Steve, I remember when I was a little kid, asking my father or my mother or somebody, when will you teach me how to drive? And they said, well, when you get a little bit older, we'll teach you to drive. And I know a lot of people who said that long before they took driver's ed, as a teenager, a parent took them someplace, like a parking lot or a long driveway, and said, okay, get in the seat there, I'm going to walk you through the process. But here we've got a father who they say was drunk and a kid who's 9 years old. And now I'm not sure how big the 9-year-old kid is physically, but literally your size does matter because whether you can reach the pedals properly or not, that may have played into this. So the man was allegedly intoxicated when he let his 9-year-old get behind the wheel back in the first week of October, according to the responding officer's affidavit, which was attached to a summons filed in the Toledo Clerk of Court Files, but was reviewed by People magazine. So apparently this is something they've confirmed. And now you have to understand, when I first saw the headline, I thought maybe it's one of those situations where somebody who was intoxicated said, here, you drive. But I think it was, no, you want to learn to drive? Sure. So the son was allegedly in the driver's seat, but the father was the passenger, was attempting to teach him how to drive and instructed him to press one of the pedals. But the child did not know which one was which. And again, this is the kind of thing. After you've driven for a while, you take some things for granted. Gas pedal, brake pedal, clutch if you got one, right? But you know these things instinctively. To somebody who's never driven before, the pedal thing would be confusing. And so I remember watching my parents drive, especially the international travel while we had, and I was often in one of the rear seats. So I saw everything they did with their hands. I watched them shift it, I watched them drive it, but I never watched them work the pedals. And so the pedal thing was a mystery to me until I got to sit up front and actually pay attention. Like, oh, when you're doing this thing, you're also doing something with your left foot. Interesting. I did not know that. So he told his kid to hit one of the pedals, and the kid somehow placed the vehicle in reverse. So it shows you that somehow these instructions weren't working really well. Because when he said, press one of the pedals and the vehicle goes into reverse, unless he's also working a stick shift and put it in the wrong gear, but that seems very odd. The car ran backwards and into a pole across the street, according to the officer. And it turns out there were multiple witnesses to this, and believe it or not, a video. So it's going to be hard to unravel this one. If you're trying to explain something else is happening because there's witnesses. So in the affidavit, according to the officer, the father violated the duty of care and protection for his child by allowing him to operate a motor vehicle, and his actions created a substantial risk of harm to both the father and the very young child standing right near the vehicle as this occurred. So they're going after the father for doing this, letting this happen. He's charged with 1 count of first-degree misdemeanor endangerment of children by creating a substantial risk to their health or safety, as well as wrongful entrustment of a vehicle to a person who does not have a valid license. That's according to the summonses, plural, summonses, issued in the cases, plural, and obtained by people. Meanwhile, the man was taken to the hospital, and his condition has not been released. And so there's a little bit of confusion here exactly how the man got injured. But it does say that he was hit by the car. So when I first started reading the story, I thought, well, maybe he was in the passenger seat, but it sounds now like he was outside of the car. The kid was in the car. So not quite sure. Hey, I wasn't there. It was noted in the affidavit that the father has been served personally with a copy of the summons due to his inability to be booked based on his injuries, which I suspect means that he is in the hospital, or at least he was. It was unclear if he'd been later booked in Lucas County Corrections Center, but an online record of those incarcerated since Monday did not include him. No one else was listed as injured in the affidavit or the report. Neither the Toledo Police Department nor the Lucas County Sheriff's Office responded to people's request for additional information on the case in time for publication. It's not clear if the man has a lawyer yet. He is set to be arraigned shortly on these charges. So the charges are, again, first-degree misdemeanor endangerment of children by creating a substantial risk to their health or safety, and wrongful entrustment of a vehicle to a person who does not have a valid license. And again, I have no problem if somebody has a child who is old enough to learn how to drive, and if you take them someplace where they can't possibly hurt anything or anyone, but usually I've heard of it more when kids are like 13, 14, 15, like getting ready to take driver's ed. And then, of course, usually you're in the car with them so that if worse comes to worse, you can reach over with your foot and stomp on a brake or something, or shut the car off or whatever. But it sounds like this, he might have been outside the vehicle. So it started off by saying he was taking his young son for a driving lesson, but then he says he let the kid take the wheel, and as his father was trying to teach him how to drive, instructed him to press one of the pedals, but accidentally placed the vehicle in reverse, and the car ran backwards and into a pole. And again, the headline says, "Father hit by car, driven by 9-year-old son." So mistakes were made. Errors in judgment were made. And I can't imagine that the typical 9-year-old should be behind the wheel of a car. So I know I get a lot of people pushing back on that without noticing I said the typical 9-year-old, because obviously there are 9-year-olds out there who could drive a car. Many kids younger than that race go-karts, for instance, and could probably handle a car as long as they can reach the pedals and so on. And of course the question is, are we talking about an automatic or a manual shift? That, of course, would complicate things. I know many adults who can't drive a clutch, so nowadays, all bets are off, as they say. So, again, the headline was just a gift that keeps on giving. Kevin, thanks for sending that from people.com. Emily Palmer wrote it. Ohio father hit by car, driven by 9-year-old son, was allegedly drunk when giving driving lesson. And, of course, this sounds like a great law exam question, because the question would then be, if the man was injured in the situation and he files a claim against his own insurance company saying, "I got hit by my own car. I want you to pay for my injuries." Are they going to be able to say, "Yeah, but you shouldn't have let your 9-year-old son drive it while you were drunk"? Discuss. So there you go. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. If it is good, they will stop making it.